Hey, welcome back to the secret underground lair. So I got another log set up on the work table sawmill, and we're going to cut this one into some slices. This log is 6 feet long. It's about 11 inches in diameter at this end, maybe 10, somewhere between 10 and 11 inches at this end, and somewhere between 9 and 10 at its widest point on this end. This is probably the biggest log that I've put on the sawmill. Well, we'll give it make some slices of it. This is another, what I believe to be another Western red cedar, but we'll take a couple slices and see what we get. Finished cutting the slice off that log. Very dull blade, so I got to sharpen it up. There's a lot of burning going on. And I'm afraid this is not cedar again. I'm going to have to learn to get better at telling the logs apart from when they're raw, but this appears to be pine, probably some pickled in chemicals. So I'm not sure if I'm going to continue with this log. I might just put it off to the side. Yeah, I'm not really crazy about dealing with the chemical treated logs. However, we did get all the way through it. The saw did reasonably well. I had to adjust the blade guards, or the blade guide. I had to move this one out just a little bit as I got near the end, as it was actually binding up against the log. Anyway, interesting cut. Yeah, you learn something new every time you cut a log, so it's all good. And I'm just gonna mill around, perhaps putting up a different log on the mill and make sure we have some cedar. So here's how I'm learning about pine and cedar. So here's a close-up of the log that I just cut. These are the rings. You can see these are very closely spaced together. The wood is rather dense. That's the pine log. Go over here to cedar. And you can see the rings are much farther apart. The wood is much coarser. Now, some of that, of course, could be the saw used to cut it off, but conversely, here's that pine log and a chainsaw used to cut this. So you can see, yeah, the wood behaves much differently. It's much denser wood. Now, it's partly denser wood, and it's partly because it's probably infused pressure treated chemically. So this is the wood I'm looking for. I'll be a little bit more careful and diligent next time around, but so I'm going to put this log up. This is a little shorter log. It's about 4 feet long. And I'll get some dimensions on that and come back in a second. So this log is 44 inches in length and 10 inches in diameter. You can see we've got a cut right across the pith here, so I'm going to put this onto the sawmill, kind of that orientation. So we'll be taking slices here, working up. And we'll try to make sure we get that in the pith, or that center cut right in here, and then we'll discard that and keep this part. So I'll get that set up, and I'm going to sharpen the blade. We'll do some more logging, more sawing. Okay, gotta learn what that term is. So I have these two logs, the cedar and the pine, side by side. And I'm wondering if you can tell me, by looking at the bark, which one is which. They are surprisingly similar in texture. So you can see how that one looks. And this one looks pretty much the same. The only difference I can tell is the one on the right, the grain is not, you know, as you look at it, it kind of slopes up, twirls a little bit counterclockwise as you're going up. That just might be that particular specimen. This one seems to be a little bit straighter. This is the cedar, this is the pine. So apart from cutting off the end to take a look at the grain, it's a little difficult to tell what kind of log you got. Anyway, this one, I know that's cedar, so that's going up on the sawmill next. Already got our fresh cedar log on the mill. Blade has been sharpened, so let's have at it. Getting some pretty serious blade drift here, so I'm going to adjust the guide on the far side, bring it in. I also started that cut going a little bit fast, and that just might have set the whole thing off, so I'll be back in a sec. We'll try that again, reset that guide, and we'll just go in a little bit slower. Alrighty, had a blade snap, as you may have seen. So got a fresh new blade put in, and we'll try that cut again. I dropped the blade down a little bit, so I'm starting with a fresh cut. Notice a little bit of sparking on the guide over here on the right. I suspect I might have a bearing seized again. We'll take a look at that. Okay, I replaced the bearing. I'm going to continue. What gives me some optimism is the color of the sawdust that I'm getting here is good. It's not the burnt sawdust that I was getting with that pine log. So I'll carry on. Hopefully we'll get through this. Okay, that cut went really well. I think my problems began on the very long log where I had to adjust this blade guide when it got near the end. I think what happened is that this piece was not tightened up again, so it was a little bit loose, and that was just causing a little bit of binding or play, probably causing some stress on the blade. And then when I went to put this log on and started cutting, again, this was a little loose. That's just a theory. Of course, I also sharpened the blade in between, and I'm noticing a pattern that sharpening the blade and breaking the blade seem to be very closely related. So may have some things to learn there. Anyway, this came out beautifully, and I'll show you the log. So here's the piece that was cut off the top. Just some beautiful cedar. Really nice stuff here on the top too, or the first slice. So yeah, much nicer wood than we were getting with the pine. And I had so much blade drift that even dropping the blade down 1/4 inch, I still have a little bit of a issue that I'm gonna have to deal with here. Nothing major, but just something to deal with. Also, this log has some holes drilled through. This hole goes through on a diagonal, so we're gonna have some interesting character with pieces at this end, but that's okay. I'm going to end the video here. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe. Lessons learned today on the difference between impregnated pine and cedar. So I'll be a little bit more careful of watching the end grain to determine if I'm picking up a cedar log or a pine log, and I'll leave the pine ones alone. And we'll finish milling this up.